Hey everybody, welcome back to some more early morning barking, talking about BPD and NPD by somebody that has both. Today we're talking about love bombing, which comes from both the BPD side and the NPD side. I have notes on this that I've made. So if I'm glancing down here, it's my laptop and I have notes. Okay, see, this is preparation. This is what you're paying your money for. I'm going to talk a lot about it from the BPD side of things today because there's a lot of stuff out there about the NPD side of things. We'll come back to it at the end. It's important to mention because I think there's a lot of incorrect stuff out there. But the NPD seems to get a lot of attention, right? Because we're just the evil narcissist out to get you, etc., etc. We'll come back to it, like I say. There is BPD love bombing as well. And we don't seem to talk about that as much. So that's where we're going to land mostly today. By love bombing, what do I actually mean? Are you being love bombed? I don't know. Now, ordinarily, this will happen in the beginning of a new relationship. But it's not necessarily exclusive to the beginning of a new relationship, okay? It's generally related to areas of relationship stress with frayed attachment styles and somebody feeling very insecure. So love bombing. What we're talking about is a number of different behaviors that make you feel immensely loved and adored by somebody in a way that is actually quite fake and unreal. It's a question of using extreme loving and caring behavior in an attempt to pull you in and hold on to you. Because as people with BPD, we're lonely and desperate for love, right? We're kind of feeling that we're unlovable. How could this person we're on a date with love us and we love bomb? It kind of makes sense, right? So we'll just throw everything we've got at somebody and it gets kind of crazy, okay? Now, don't get me wrong. When you go on a date with someone for the first time, you're taking your A game, right? You're wearing a clean shirt, you're making sure you're showered, you're smelling nice, etc. This representation of yourself that you give to people on a first date is somewhat accurate. I mean, you're really there, right? Technically that is you, but is that you day to day? No, not necessarily. If we were going to be perfectly honest on first dates, we'd just turn up and eat a pizza off our tummy in our underpants. That wouldn't go very well, but it's a bit more realistic. Love bombing is taking that to an extreme. It's something that comes on very strongly and without much provocation. If you've seen Baby Reindeer on Netflix, you might have some idea of what I'm talking about. With BPD, if you're in a particular low point, if you're feeling very unloved and unlovable, if somebody shows you attention, if somebody shows you niceness and kindness and the time of day and is willing to talk to you, it's very easy to somehow immediately develop feelings for somebody. And these feelings are going to be not real because you don't really know somebody. You don't really know all about them. And yet we're going to start love bombing because we can't let this person go. In my opinion, it starts with a little bit of the romantic obsession, right? Beyond the little bit of attention that we get, we move on to the romantic obsession. So we get this little bit of attention and we fall head over heels in love with this person. Suddenly they're the greatest person in the world and the person we're meant to spend the rest of our lives with. And we imagine our future together, we imagine the kids we're going to have, what our wedding will be like, and that sort of thing. And in a love bombing phase, you can start to sort of spill this out. You can start to sort of let these feelings come out because you kind of get caught up in them and think that you're not the only one feeling these things. But of course, the other person isn't feeling those things. They're feeling a much more reasonable approach to a potential new relationship. And so out of this desperation to cling on to this imaginary life and relationship that you've just come up with, you start with all kinds of behaviors. Being really clingy, being really obvious, really sort of upfront in your face with, I like you so much, in a way that is unreasonable, that is a little bit unhinged, that kind of thing. We're talking about excessive comments, excessive clinginess, buying excessive presents and that sort of thing. You know, I've heard about people who've received expensive bunches of flowers on a daily basis from a new boyfriend and that sort of thing. Extreme romantic gestures that aren't warranted given the state of the relationship to a healthy mind. You know, a very early come and meet my mother, or I know we're going to have a great relationship, we're going to be together for so long, all this enthusiastic stuff that makes you raise an eyebrow and step back and go, sorry, what? But more than anything else, it's about behavior that is unsustainable, right? This isn't going to go on forever. This isn't what this relationship with this person is going to be like. The love bombing is happening now, and it feels great because look at all the attention you're getting. Look at how much this person cares and is obsessed with you and that sort of thing. But it's either going to get excessive and become too much, or it's just going to go away. You can't send a bunch of flowers to somebody every day for the rest of your life. You can't do things like that. You can't send expensive presents or go on expensive trips. You can't do all these things. They are unsustainable and they are over the top. And they are all based on an internal fantasy. This romantic obsession, this great relationship that we're going to have based on the fact that we've been chatting for a week. But more accurately, based on the fact that you perhaps showed me some attention when I was feeling down. You were somebody that came to my aid when I needed it emotionally or something like that. And now we have a special bond. Now we have a special connection because you were there. You were the one who was there for me. You see how it spirals. And it's not good. None of this is healthy. None of it is real. None of it is realistic. It comes out of desperation and panic and fear. See, when we're alone, when we're looking for people to love us, look, the advice is that you sort of take it easy, that love finds you, all of that rubbish, you know, but people get desperate, people get lonely, people get sad and down and want somebody to share those times with as well as the happy times. It becomes desperate. It becomes unhinged. And it is the sign that you're not doing so well. And as the person being love bombed, you don't know what to think. You don't know what to do with that. I mean, what do you do with that? You know things are going to change. So who is this person that you're getting to know? What is it going to be like? Because you don't know. You're not meeting them. You're meeting the love bombing version of them. The real them is what's going to come out later. And if it's somebody with personality disorders, be it borderline or narcissistic, when that love bombing goes away, you could be left with a real mess to deal with. You could be left with something that you really don't want to be dealing with. See my last video in talking about the stages of healing, of not healed, healing, and healed. The healing people and the healed people don't do the love bombing. Just the unhealed people. The people that it's probably best to not begin new relationships with if you can help it. And don't use any experience you've got based on the healing people and the healed people. You know? The narcissistic side of things is somewhat different, but it's still just as desperate. We have this reputation, like I say, we're the evil narcissist out there online, okay? And all of our motivations are apparently to hurt and control you. And dating is one area where those things get picked out a lot. And I don't know where they come from. As all things with narcissism, I'm sure we can find someone who's done this. But is that enough to warrant saying all narcissists do this? This is something that narcissists do? No. It rarely is. And online content prefers the extreme, the more scary thing. It's more interesting to read, right? But it's ultimately not really true. We're not trying to control and manipulate people. We're not trying to find those personal details that can be used against you later. In the early stages, we're just like the BPD people, right? We're afraid. We're afraid and we're scared and we're ashamed and we feel unlovable and we feel unlikable, and we're probably playing back in our head all those relationships that we've ruined, all those people that we've hurt and not really known how or why. And deep down, we don't want to have done that. We don't want to be that person. We want to get things right. We want to be loved. We want to love somebody. But because we love bomb, we go over the top, we make things extravagant, we go too far, we push the limits of what's reasonable. That drop down afterwards, when that goes away, can be far more upsetting and disturbing. It can be far more nasty and horrible. And I think that's where this idea that we, will look for weaknesses and use them to exploit you or hurt you later. We don't look for them to do that. We look for them because we're interested in you, because we might like you. We want to know about you. We want to find things out. We're actually just being pretty normal at that point. But unfortunately, for the unhealed and unhealing, that can give us some ammunition. I can't say I've ever done that myself. It's a very dark and screwed up thing. Looking to find out stuff about people in order to be able to hurt them later, it adds a level of pre-contemplation, of planning, that just doesn't exist in narcissism. We're second to second reaction. We're not planning things out. We're not thinking, well, if I can find out X, Y, and Z about this person, then in 6 months' time, when I choose to stop love bombing them, I can use this to control them greater. We don't think that far ahead. We aren't capable of doing that. And we certainly all aren't capable of manipulating people in some way. As I say, time and time again, the desire to manipulate people does not bring with it the ability to manipulate people. But we still love bomb. We just are genuinely interested. We want to do it right. And sometimes, look, the narcissism might kick into how we date. Like, we might want to be the best at dating. We might want the reputation that we took you to the most expensive place, that we picked you up in the nicest car, that we spent the most on that bunch of flowers that we brought with us, or whatever. And that result, it still looks the same, right? It's still over the top. It's still too much. And when you go too much, it scares people. It puts them off. And for good reason. A lot of people won't really know what's happening. They won't know the explanation behind it. They won't know the motivations or the fears and worries that bring it out in a person. But they'll know something's off. They'll know that this is not how everyone else has ever treated me. And don't start looking at that in a kind of, well, I treat you better than everybody else. No. There's a happy medium. This is a swinging pendulum, right, of attention towards somebody. There's too little, but there's definitely too much. And we're going to try and aim for the middle bit. That's what we want to do. We want to hit that balance of the right amount of attention. Too much attention makes somebody feel smothered. It makes them scared. It makes them wonder what your deal is. And unfortunately, as people with BPD or MPD, we have a deal. We have a thing to deal with. And we're sort of wearing it on our sleeve in all its untreated ways when we love bomb. And so are you being love bombed? There's things to look out for, like I say. Things that are too much, things that are too far. Ask yourself, is what he's doing now realistically gonna last forever? Or is this just part of this initial, look at me, I'm so great, I'm going to stop doing this in a couple of months? Because for big grand gestures, for suddenly being interested in you and being interested in you a lot, and thinking about new connections and talking about it and like pushing things forward, trying to eagerly move things on, there's a line. You know where that line is. It's one of those things I can't tell you, but I know when I see it. And you know what feels right and what feels wrong. There's an element of trusting yourself here. But be aware that it's a thing that can happen, not just with NPD, but BPD as well. And yes, it comes from a place of fear and worry, not anger and aggression or violence or hate. But still, it isn't good. It doesn't end well. And so my advice, once again, and I keep beating the don't date us drum, which, might be counterproductive in some ways, but at the same time, avoid this thing. If you think someone's love bombing you, then you have to wonder why. And it might not be a great idea to stick around to find out, because you don't know what that's going to be. I hope that's of help. If it was, hit the like and subscribe buttons. They're on the screen below. You know how YouTube works. And don't forget, you can visit me at earlymorningbarking.com. Get more videos on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Help support the channel. You can book some one-to-one BPD, NPD peer support. We'll have a chat about what's wrong and that sort of thing. I'm not a therapist, but I know what it's like to have BPD and NPD, unfortunately. Hey, such is life. Anyway, you take care. I love you lots. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.